Now, it's no secret that Donald Trump has a soft spot for strongmen leaders. For years, India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, seemed to be one of them. Washington saw India as a vital counterweight to China, and Trump appeared to agree. Modi was even among the very first world leaders welcomed into the Oval Office back in February, back when such visits looked like prestigious honors rather than high stakes public struggle sessions. But then, almost overnight, the relationship unraveled. Today, India holds the dubious honor of being one of the most heavily tariffed nations in the world under Trump, an honor it shares only with Brazil. How did it all go so wrong, and what does it mean for the shifting balance of global power? But before we get into that, please, if you value reasonable, rational explanations of complicated geopolitical events without the propaganda, make sure you subscribe now so you don't miss future uploads. Officially, Trump slapped a 25% tariff on India because no trade deal had been finalized by his deadline. Then he doubled down, literally, by adding another 25% penalty, this time claiming it was punishment for India's purchases of Russian oil. A 50% tariff war, which is a brutal hit to India's economy. But that's only part of the story. You see, the truth is, India was always going to be a tough negotiating partner for Trump. His trade team had been used to pushing smaller, export dependent economies into one sided deals. Countries that relied heavily on US markets often had little choice but to give in. But India wasn't to surrender its sovereignty at the negotiating table. For decades, New Delhi has been careful about protecting its farmers, its dairy producers, and its small scale industries. When India signs trade agreements like the one it carefully hammered out with the United Kingdom, it does so on its own terms, with years of preparation and fine tuning. Modi wasn't about to dismantle that approach just to give Trump an easy political win. And here's the irony: Trump himself justifies tariffs as a way to protect American workers. But when India does the same for its people, Trump cries foul and calls it ripping off America. Still, this dispute might have stayed confined to dry trade talks if it weren't for Trump's ego. Things turned personal after India's brief but explosive clash with Pakistan in Kashmir. After Indian jets struck militant targets across the border, Pakistan retaliated, and the two sides engaged in a short-lived military exchange. Trump quickly swooped in to claim credit for diffusing the conflict. He even started counting it as one of the 6 wars he claims to have solved. But there was a problem. India flatly denied that Trump had anything to do with it. No backpatting, no credit given by India. For Trump, this was the ultimate insult. Compare that to Ukraine's Zelensky, who recently thanked Trump more than a dozen times in just a few minutes to keep Trump happy. Modi, on the other hand, wasn't going to play along. He expected mutual respect, not crazy dictatorship. From that moment, the tone shifted. Trump began tweeting insults about India, calling its economy dead and publicly ridiculing it. And soon after came the tariffs. Now, let's look at the justification. Punching India for buying Russian oil? That's shaky at best. Since the Ukraine war began, India has become Russia's biggest oil customer. Yes, this is true, but so has China and Turkey and even US allies like Japan. Many European states still import Russian oil indirectly, yet Trump targeted only India. Why? Because China has leverage. US can't do anything against China. Its rare earth minerals, its deep entanglement with the US supply chain. Trump knows he can't risk a full-scale economic war with Beijing. He has lost every time. Turkey is a NATO member. Japan is an ally, but India, growing, ambitious, but still heavily reliant on US markets and American investment. To Trump's team, India looked like an easier target. The problem is, India isn't playing victim. For decades, it has relied on Moscow as a military partner. Over 60% of its weapons are Russian made. Cutting that relationship would leave India scrambling to replace most of its arsenal at enormous cost in very turbulent times. Beyond that, Russia sells arms with virtually no restrictions. It's proper old school trade, unlike the US weapons sales that come with strings attached. And geopolitically, Modi has always balanced carefully between great powers. Until recently, that balance leaned closer to Washington as a hedge against China. But if Trump is willing to humiliate Modi while cozying up to Pakistan, why should India keep betting on the US? In fact, we're already seeing the fallout. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has been in New Delhi meeting with Modi to reset relations. No, India and China won't become best friends overnight. Only a few years ago, they had skirmishes on the Sino-Indian border. China also stood up with words and actions to support Pakistan against India in their recent skirmish, but Trump's tariffs have cracked open the door for Beijing to pull New Delhi closer. That's a major strategic shift. Modi once trusted Trump, so much so that he broke diplomatic norms by publicly supporting Trump during the 2019 election campaign. And when Trump returned to the White House in 2024, Modi seemed genuinely delighted, expecting their personal chemistry to continue. But now that trust is gone. Modi has learned the hard way. Trump's America doesn't do alliances, it does leverage, it does threats, and it doesn't care about loyalty or long term relationships. Canada knows that. Instead, Modi is sending his own signals. Recently, he publicly thanked my friend President Putin for calling to share his takeaways from the recent summit with Trump in Alaska. The subtext wasn't really about Moscow, it was a message aimed straight at Washington. India won't be told who it can and can't align with. This moment matters because it's not about just tariffs or even about India. It's about the world Trump is shaping, a world where allies are disposable, like Canada, where personal ego overrides diplomacy, like the recent Zelensky and Trump farce, and American interests and where America's soft power is being squandered. And in that vacuum, other powers, China, Russia, and beyond, are rushing to fill the space. The American led order is fraying fast. What comes next is a messier multipolar world with all the instability that brings. And Trump's falling out with India may well go down as the turning points that accelerated it. Thanks for watching. The global economy isn't just shifting, it's being rewritten in real time. And if you want to cut through the noise, see the patterns, and actually understand what's really going on behind the headlines, you're in the right place. Subscribe now for reasonable, clear explanations of the complex geopolitical and financial moves shaping our world, because the next twist is already coming. I'll see you in the next one.